Hello there and welcome to another tutorial with Blender Tutorials for You. My name is Jeff and today we're going to be creating this lightsaber, Darth Maul lightsaber. Let's get to it. The first we're going to do is we're going to be in our main scene here. We're going to hit X on the cube and delete it. And I'm going to hit 1 on my numpad and I'm going to bring in a photo, the Darth Maul lightsaber. I'm going to hit Alt G to bring it to the center and I'm just going to move on in. I know the photo's not like crazy clear, but I don't know how to get a clearer photo. Any suggestions would help. You can also find this photo on my Patreon page, which I'll leave a link in the description. So what's going to happen here is we're going to start off with the top here. We're going to use it as a one piece because we have 2 of them, right? So later on, we'll just duplicate this to be on the bottom. The same thing for this here. We're going to make 2 of those, or 1 of those, and 1 of the center as well. And then we're just going to duplicate them to have 2, 3 pieces down there, right? So, all right, let's get to it. So with nothing selected, we're just going to go Shift A, Mesh, Circle. We're going to grab the circle on the Z and bring it up, and we're just going to scale it in. So I figured for our first part, we can make this piece right here with it's going to be a lot of E and S to bring out, to go up, E and S, yada yada, right, all the way to the very top. So let's just go ahead and do that. So I'm going to first tab into edit mode. I'm going to hit E, Z on the top, and S to bring it in. You can move into wireframe by holding Z and going over to your wireframe, and this will allow you to see it a little bit better. Now we're going to be doing this all the way through. So it looks like we're going to be hitting E, bring it in a little bit, and then E, Z, up, E, S, bring it out a little bit, E, Z, up, E, S, bring it out, E, Z, up, E, S, out, E, Z, E, S, out, E, Z, S to scale it in. And then we're going to E, S and bring it in and leave a hole big enough for the lightsaber to go through. It looks a little rough on some parts, but that's okay. We're just going to add a modifier to this, and it's going to be the subdivision surface modifier. I'm also going to right click and go shade smooth. Wireframe to see how this looks. Looks like a rusty metallic. You know what? I might create that material because it looks like it's being used everywhere. So I'm just going to open up a second viewport. So if you go up over here and your icon turns to that little thing, just pull it out, and then the top left hand corner, we're just going to go to our shader editor. I'm going to hit N to close this, and we're just going to create a new material. All right, so we're going to add a noise texture and a Voronoi texture. So noise texture, and we're going to add a Voronoi texture. We're going to take the factor and attach it to the vector. We're going to increase the scale by 5.5. We're going to set the scale and the detail both to 5.5. I'm going to set the roughness to 1 and the distortion to a 0.002. Next, we're going to switch the Voronoi feature to a smooth F1 and let us move our scale to about a 0.4 and our roughness to about a 0.8 and our smoothness to about a 0.8. Next, I'm going to add a color ramp, pop that in there, and let's move our black up, see what happens. Boy, that's looking a lot nicer. And let's move the contrast down. You know what? Let's move this up, see what that, ooh, I don't know if I want it that much. What? I want the dark to be shown, which will be the rust. What if I switch? No, so I like that. Now I'm just going to Shift D and duplicate these and bring them down. And now we're just going to be adding a mix color node. So search, mix color, plop it in there. And the result's going to go into the base. And we're just going to move this over towards the factor. And then we'll just choose our 2 colors for our rust. I'm going to move scale in here so I can see this better. So we can do a dark color, rust, maybe even a little, not too dark, around maybe about there. And then our next color, we're just going to make this one a little bit more silver. Make it a little bit more gray, I think. Moving on to our next textures down here, we're going to turn the detail up. Let's turn our detail up. Yeah, somewhere around there looks good. And let's turn our distortion down. Let's make that 0. And now I'm just going to duplicate this, move it down. I'm going to take the bottom color. I'm going to duplicate that. I'm going to move these around, make it look a little cleaner. And the color of your bottom color ramp is going to go into the factor of your other color ramp. And then the color of our node into the factor. And this mix is going to go into B. And we're going to set a gray color. So let's preview it. And that doesn't look too bad. I think that looks really good. And let's plug this into our base color here. And now we're also going to take our color ramp from down here, and we're just going to plug it into the metallic output. And now all we're going to do is add an invert node and drop it right in between. And we're going to also grab this color ramp and plug it right into the roughness. Let's also add a bump node here. So Shift A, search bump, and we're just going to add the bump node right here. We're going to take the color and insert that to the height, take the normal into the normal. The strength is a little strong, so we're just going to bring it down to like a 0.2, maybe even something like a, yeah, let's do a 0.02. Looks a lot nicer there. And there you have it. That is your rusty metallic. Right, perfect. And I'm just going to close that window, and we're going to move on to our next part here. All right, while in object mode and with nothing selected, we're going to Shift A, mesh, circle. I'm going to scale that down. I'm going to plop right in here and see how it looks. We're going to move this along the Z here. And we're going to, again, scale that in a little bit. So let's do this next part here. So for this here, we're just going to go ahead and hide it by hitting H. So from what I'm seeing from here, it looks like it goes E, Z, and we bring it up. Let's go into wireframe mode. And then E, S, and scale outwards a little bit. Grab it along the Z and move it up. And then E, Z, straight across. And then E, S, scale it in a little bit, and then G, Z, move it up. So what that would make it look like, something like this. All right, and now we're going to E, Z, up, E, S, out, G, Z, up a little bit, and then E to Z, and then E to S, in, and G, Z. We can scale that in a little bit more. And I'm going to face that off. I think for save at the bottom, face that off as well. So now with our material selected, we're just going to go ahead and assign it to that material. And let's see how it looks. And all we're going to do with this one, we're going to Shift D and move it along the Z to bring it down about here. Let's go into wireframe. Just going to scale it down and just kind of position it up to about here. And then I'm going to scale not on the Z, but on the X and Y, and just kind of make it a little wider. And that there looks very familiar or similar to the other one. Let's move that down a bit. So there's just a few things we need to do some changes on here. So let's tab into edit mode. And all we're going to do is grab this face down below. I'm going to hit G on the Z, move that in. Grab all these, G on the Z, and move that down. And now let's create these little red dots there. So Shift A, mesh. I'm going to make a circle. We're going to rotate this on the X by 90 degrees, and we're just going to scale it into the size of that red dot. Just grab it on the Z, bring it up. Perfect. So we're just going to make a little button here. So all we're going to do is in edit mode, with the vertices selected, we're going to hit E. I'm going to hit Y to bring it back. And we're going to face that off. With this top one, we're also going to face that off. Now with these edges selected, this edge and this edge, we're going to Control B and bevel it out. And we're just going to make it like a button. Kind of like so. And now I'm going to add a material. We're going to create a new material. It'll just be a simple red button material. We're going to name it red. And we're just going to make it red. This out so we can see it. Okay, let's see. Yep, I think that looks pretty good. So wireframe. Now I'm going to grab this along the Y and bring it in. You need to extrude the back a little bit more, or just even grab it. I'm just going to hit C to grab all of these. And we're just going to grab that along the Y and just move it back more. So then in our view here, you can see there's actually in there. There you go. So with that selected, I'm going to go into wireframe. I'm going to scroll up and I'm going to go Shift D, Z, and put it right on that spot as well. And in material preview, you can see if it's actually in there good, and it looks great. So now we have to create these little rings, I guess they are. We're going to go Shift A, Mesh, Cylinder. The cylinder, we're actually going to scale it down. We're actually going to scale it down to the size of this. And I'm just going to bring it up here to our actual one that we're making. So now I just want to scale it. Oops. So now I just want to scale it on the Z. And I'm going to bring it down to the size of one of these. So let's tab into edit mode, and we're just going to grab the top face here. We're going to scale that in a little bit, probably till about there. I'm going to grab the entire thing. I'm going to place my first one right up top, and I'm going to scale it along the X. And now we're going to add a modifier. The modifier is going to be an array modifier. I'm going to set this factor from X to 0, and we're going to start going on the negative Z. Let's first set our count up. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to set this up to 4, and on the negative, just kind of bring them down, maybe even 5. Yeah, there you go. And with we're going to switch to edge select, and with our top ring, we're just going to grab along the Z and move it up, and we're just going to bring these in a little bit, kind of so like they're kind of overlapping there, like so. Now let's see how this looks in material preview. Okay, looks like it needs to be scaled out on the Y out a bit and see what it looks like. Looks a little oval-like. So we're going to scale this on the Y to make it more round. Scale on the X inwards, scale Shift Z, and bring it out a little bit. And I'm just going to grab this along the Z and just close in that gap. And we can give this the same material. Rename it to Rust. We are not quite done yet. We can take one of these. We can take this, we can Shift D, move it along the Z, down to where our other button was. Grab it on the, just move it over a little bit. And this one was silver. So we're going to create a new, and this will be silver, or however you spell it. I'm going to bring the metallic up and the roughness down to about a 0.3. And let's assign it. Now with this one, let's go see how it looks. Looks a little bit more gray, so we're just going to bring up the metallic all the way. I'm going to bring the roughness down to a 0.2, and that should look a little better. You know what, roughness 0.3. And now for our finishing touches on this, we're just going to bringing out these lines here. There's 1, 2, 3, looks like 4, 5, 6, 7, looks like about 7 of them wrapped around. So let's go ahead and do that. So with nothing selected, you're going to go Shift A, Mesh, Cube. I'm going to scale that down, bring it up. I'm going to scale that down to size. Then we're going to scale it along the Z and bring it down and give it a little rotate. And grab it, move it, pop it, do whatever. And we're going to just bring that to the front. Let's rotate it a bit more so that we get it more on it, or inside of it kind of thing, like that. And then I think that that looks good. Good, and now with everything selected, or with everything completed, let's just see how it looks compared to our model. I guess we could add on a couple extra buttons here if you wanted to, but I'm not going to worry too much about that. So I'm just going to go into Material Preview. I'm going to select all this, everything here. I'm going to go to one view, and I'm going to Shift D, and that'll grab one. I'm going to rotate this along the X 180. I'm going to grab it on the Z and bring it down just so that they're touching. I'm going to rotate this on the Z 180. And that I'd say looks actually pretty good. So now we're just going to do our emission color out the top. So while in object mode, we're going to grab our top piece here. We're just going to tab into edit mode. And if your ring is selected, perfect. You're just going to hit Shift D, and that's going to duplicate it. We're going to hit P, and we're going to separate by selection. Now with our circle selected, we're going to grab it along the Z and move it there. And we're going to jump into edit mode, and we're just going to start extruding this. So E, Z, and we're just going to bring it out. Let's go to the top, and we're going to do E, Z, up, and then S to scale it. I'm going to scale it a little bit by little bit. E, Z, E, Z, up, S to scale, E, Z, up, S to scale. Let's bring that down a bit. And then we can just face it off here. And now we can take that off. And now let's add a new material. So this will be our red glow. It has to be red. It's Darth Maul, no exceptions. And in our principal BSDF, we're going to do emission. And we're going to set it to a red. We're going to switch over to cycles. So when I do a rendered view, I'm going to create a plane in the back, so RX90. And we're going to grab that, move it back, scale it up, and just bring it up. So now we can have like a better view of what our thing here looks like. I'm just going to make this black just to get more of a better view. So with the color, I think it's the strength that's a little too high. Let's Shift A, create a light. Area light, we're going to scale that up, rotate this on the X 180, and then rotate it on the X minus 45. I'm just going to give this a power of, 500 to start. Move my camera up, and move it back a bit. You know what? I'm going to position where I want it first. Maybe this thing's a little bit too high up. So we'll tab into edit mode, and we'll select these. We'll just grab them on the Z and bring them down. Sure you're in wireframe. We'll select these, grab them on the Z, and bring them down. And let's scale this up and a little bit out. And let's see how this looks again. Perfect. So all we're going to do is we're going to take this, go into front view, and we're going to Shift D and rotate on the X 180, and grab it on the Z and bring it down. I might take my picture somewhere around here. Grab mouse wheel and do there, and let's just move it down a bit. Let's move it a little bit up. And that is all. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Have a great day.